My name is Brooke Callahan. I'm 30 years old, born and raised in a quiet suburb just outside Indianapolis, Indiana. Last Mother's Day, everything in my life changed in the span of one backyard dinner. My older sister stood up at the long picnic table, glowing like she'd just accepted an Oscar, and announced her third pregnancy to the entire family. My mom, Linda, let out a cheer so loud I swear the neighbors 2 houses down probably heard it through their closed windows. She jumped up, hugged my sister tight, and said with tears in her eyes, "This is everything I ever wanted for our family." She pressed her hands together like God himself had answered a long prayer. Then my dad turned, looked straight at me, and said without hesitation, "You're moving in with them to help." I blinked hard, my fork still halfway to my mouth. "What?" My sister laughed, that light, dismissive laugh she always used when she thought she was being reasonable. "Come on, Brooke, you have nothing major going on anyway. We're basically fixing your life for you." 15 people sat around that table, uncles, aunts, cousins, my brother-in-law, the kids, and not one single person looked uncomfortable. Not one of them said, "Hey, maybe we should ask Brooke first." They just nodded along like it was the most natural decision in the world. I didn't argue in the moment. I simply nodded once, stood up slowly, picked up my purse, and walked straight out the side gate without saying another word. The drive home was silent, no radio, no podcast, just the low hum of my 9-year-old Honda Civic and the sound of my own breathing trying to stay steady. That night I barely slept. The next morning at exactly 7:15, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. "Good morning, ma'am. This is Officer Ramirez with the Indianapolis Metro Police Department. Before I tell you what happened next, if you're watching or listening right now, take a second to drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're from and what time it is there. I love knowing I'm not alone in these stories. Now, let me take you back to how my family decided my life belonged to them. I grew up in a modest 3-bedroom ranch house on the east side of Indianapolis. My dad, Robert Callahan, worked as an electrician for 28 years until his knees gave out and he took early retirement on disability. My mom, Linda, stayed home and ran our household like a tight ship. Everyone had assigned roles, and she decided exactly what those roles were. My older sister, Lauren, followed the family blueprint perfectly. She got married at 26, had her first baby at 28, her second at 31, and now here she was at 34 announcing baby number 3. She and her husband, Mike, lived just 10 minutes away, and every Sunday she brought the grandkids over like clockwork. In my mother's eyes, Lauren was the gold standard, the finished product. Then there was me. I graduated with a degree in accounting, moved 25 minutes away into a cozy 1-bedroom apartment, and landed a solid remote job with a mid-sized auditing firm downtown. I drove that same reliable Civic, ate dinner alone most nights while reviewing spreadsheets, and was 5 months deep into intense study for the CPA exam, the one credential that could completely change my career trajectory. But none of that seemed to register with my family. Every holiday, the same tired script played out. "So, are you seeing anyone special yet? Still working from home? Must be nice having all that free time." The questions always came wrapped in fake smiles, but the message underneath was crystal clear: "You're behind schedule." Lauren got praised endlessly for giving my mom more grandchildren. I got gentle jabs about when I was finally going to start living. And they never let me forget the $12,000 they helped with for college 8 years ago. My mom brought it up at least once a month, sometimes twice. "I gave you that $12,000 so you could build a real career," she'd say, scanning my apartment like it personally disappointed her. "And this is what you're doing with it?" That $12,000 had become the price tag on my obedience. Mother's Day started normally enough. I showed up at my parents' house at 4 p.m. sharp, carrying a beautiful bouquet of pink peonies and a homemade lemon pound cake I'd spent 2 hours perfecting, glaze and all. Mom took the flowers, barely glanced at them, and set them on the counter next to a pile of junk mail. Then she pivoted toward the front door because Lauren's minivan had just pulled in. "There she is. Mom called out, arms wide open. Lauren walked in with Mike and the kids, 6-year-old Emma and 3-year-old Lucas. Mom scooped Lucas up like he was made of pure gold. Look at you, getting so big. She turned to Lauren and cupped her face. You look absolutely radiant, sweetheart. Radiant. I couldn't remember the last time my mom had looked at me with even half that warmth. At the table I got the worst seat, wedged between Lucas's high chair and the wall. Dad sat at the head like always. Lauren took the center spot right next to Mom. Conversation flowed easily around me, Emma's preschool art show, Mike's buddy's fishing trip, Dad asking about the Pacers. When someone finally turned to me, it was Dad with 5 flat words, "You doing all right, Brooke?" "Yeah, Dad. I'm good." He nodded and went back to his potatoes. That was it. Then Lauren caught Mike's eye across the table. They shared a quick, rehearsed look. Something big was coming. She tapped her spoon against her glass. The yard went quiet. "We have an announcement," she said, pressing her palm to her stomach with a glowing smile. "We're expecting baby number 3, 12 weeks along." Mom's hand flew to her mouth. She shot out of her chair and wrapped Lauren in a hug so fast the glasses rattled. She was actually crying. "Oh my God, this is everything I wanted." Dad leaned back, nodding with deep satisfaction, like his retirement plan was finally paying dividends. Mike grinned like he'd just won the lottery. The kids didn't fully get it. Lucas banged his spoon, Emma asked for more bread. Then Dad turned to me again. "You're moving in to help." He didn't ask. He stated it like a done deal. I stared at him, stunned. "What?" Lauren leaned forward, still beaming. "Mike's been swamped at work. I'm going to need real help with Emma and Lucas once the baby comes. You work from home, so you have the time." She shrugged like it was the most obvious solution in the world. "You have nothing going on anyway. We're fixing your life." She said it with a little laugh, as if everyone at the table wasn't already nodding in agreement. I looked at my mom. She was wiping happy tears, completely focused on Lauren. I looked at my dad. He had already gone back to cutting his steak. Not one person asked how I felt about it. So I picked up my napkin, folded it neatly, set it on the table, stood up, grabbed my purse, and walked straight out the gate. "Brooke," my mom called sharply behind me. I didn't turn around. The drive home was dead silent. Inside my apartment, I locked the door, dropped my purse, and slid down to the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets, knees pulled up, trying to keep my breathing steady. My phone started blowing up before I even kicked off my shoes, 14 texts from Mom in rapid succession. First came the soft plea, "Brooke, sweetie, come back. We can talk about this." Then the guilt trip, "You just ruined Mother's Day. I hope you're proud of yourself." Then the fake worry, "I'm really concerned about you. Walking out like that isn't normal. Please answer me. You're scaring me." 3 missed calls from Lauren, no voicemail, of course. She never left voicemails, she just expected instant callbacks. 1 text from Mike, "Hey, everything okay over there?" I answered none of them. I powered my phone off, brushed my teeth, and went to bed at 8:30 p.m. on Mother's Day like someone who had officially checked out. I slept hard and dreamless, the kind of sleep your body forces on you when it knows tomorrow is going to hurt. At 7:15 the next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. My gut told me to pick up. "Good morning, ma'am. This is Officer Ramirez with the Indianapolis Metro Police Department. We received a call expressing concern about your well-being. Would you be willing to let me come by and do a quick welfare check?" I sat on the edge of my bed, stomach turning cold. "Yes," I said. "Come by." Officer Ramirez was polite, mid-40s, calm eyes, clipboard ready. He stood at my door in full uniform and spoke like he'd handled this exact situation many times before. Ma'am, we got a call from a family member saying you left a family gathering abruptly last night and might be experiencing a mental health crisis. They were worried you could be a danger to yourself. I let him inside. He scanned my apartment, dishes drying on the rack, laptop open on the table, CPA study guides neatly stacked beside a half-empty coffee mug. It looked like the home of someone who was handling her business, not someone falling apart. Can I ask what happened last night? He said gently. My family announced a plan for my entire life without asking me. I disagreed, so I left. He wrote something down, then looked up. That sounds like a pretty reasonable response to me. We talked for about 10 minutes. He asked the standard questions. Was I sleeping? Eating? Had I had any thoughts of harming myself? I answered clearly and calmly, no to all of it. When he stood to leave, he paused at the door. Ma'am, you seem perfectly fine to me. I'll note that in my report. One more thing, if someone files repeated welfare checks that turn out to be unfounded, there can be legal consequences for the caller. Filing a false report is a misdemeanor in Indiana. He couldn't tell me who called, but he didn't have to. I already knew it was my mom. After he left, I sat at my kitchen table and did what I do best, I ran the numbers. If I moved in with Lauren, I'd be watching Emma and Lucas at least 3 to 4 hours every day. That's basically a part-time job on top of my full-time remote role. I couldn't bill 40 hours a week while breaking up toddler fights over crayons. I'd miss deadlines, lose the big Q2 audit project my boss had just trusted me with, and fall dangerously behind on CPA prep. The exam window was in October, only 5 months away. That timeline was already tight. Then there was my lease, 8 months left, with an early termination fee of $1,800 I didn't have sitting around. And now there was an official welfare check on my record. If Mom did this again, it created a pattern that could hurt me in future background checks when I applied to bigger firms. I opened a fresh notepad and started a list, not of things I was willing to give up, but of things I flat out refused to lose: my job, my CPA exam, my apartment, my reputation. 4 non-negotiables. 3 months earlier I had made the mistake of watching the kids for a full week while Mike was traveling. I fell behind on a major deliverable, and my boss Linda had pulled me aside. Brooke, this can't happen again. I went to bat for you on this project. I had promised myself never again. And now my family wasn't asking, they were telling me to hand over everything I'd built so they could avoid daycare costs. Monday morning I finally turned my phone back on. 27 new messages waited for me. Mom's texts had shifted from fake concern to pure offense. The police said you're fine, so why aren't you answering? Are you punishing me? I raised you. I fed you. I helped pay for your school. And this is the thanks I get? Your sister is pregnant, Brooke. She needs you. Stop being selfish. Lauren's messages were shorter and colder. Seriously, Brooke, grow up. We need to talk about the plan. Mike and I already told the kids Aunt Brooke is coming to stay. Don't embarrass us. Dad called. I picked up out of habit. You made your mother cry all night, he said, voice flat and cold. You'll be at the house Sunday. The whole family's coming, everyone. You'll be there. End of discussion. He never once asked if I was okay after a police officer showed up at my door at 7:15 a.m. because Mom claimed I might hurt myself. Not one of them cared how that felt. They just wanted me back in line. I told him I'd be there. Then I added a 5th line to my list, my dignity. Tuesday evening I tried calling Lauren directly, hoping to reach the person who actually needed the help and end this quietly. She answered with, finally. Are you done sulking? I'm not moving in, Lauren. Excuse me? I have a full-time job. I have a lease. I'm studying for the CPA exam. I can't give all that up. You work from home. You can work from anywhere. That's not how it works. I have responsibilities. This is my life, I get to decide how I live it. Mom is devastated. Do you understand what you're doing to this family? Helping is one thing. Being assigned an unpaid full-time nanny job is completely different. She went quiet for 2 seconds, then her tone dropped into something calculated. We already told Emma and Lucas that Aunt Brooke is moving in. They're so excited. Emma even picked out a welcome card. Are you really going to disappoint them too? There it was, the kid's card. Not because she cared about my bond with them, but because she knew I did. Don't use your children to guilt-trip me, Lauren. I'm not guilting you. I'm telling you reality. The reality is you need free childcare and I'm the cheapest option. She hung up on me. 8 minutes later Mom called, already crying. Are you trying to kill me, Brooke? I haven't slept in 2 days. Mom, you called the police on me. A long pause. I was worried. You left in the middle of dinner without a word. Any mother would be concerned. You told them I was mentally unstable. An officer showed up and asked if I was a danger to myself. That's not worry, that's a weapon. Don't be dramatic. I held the phone away, took a deep breath, then brought it back. I left because Dad told me what my life was going to be without asking, and you cheered. Because it's a beautiful thing that my sister needs me. What's wrong with family helping family? What's wrong is that nobody asked. You decided for me. She flipped the script again. If you don't come Sunday, I'll tell everyone what really happened, that you abandoned us on Mother's Day, that you're ignoring your family, that you refused to help your pregnant sister. Then tell them whatever you want, I said calmly. I'll be there Sunday. And I'll have something to say. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but my voice had stayed steady the entire time. Wednesday night I sat at my kitchen table with one sheet of lined paper and wrote down 3 simple facts I needed 15 people to hear. I never agreed to move in. Someone in this family called the police and lied about my mental state. I have been told, not asked, to give up my career, my home, and my independence so my sister can save on childcare. Then I called my Aunt Patricia, Dad's younger sister. She lives alone in a condo in Carmel, teaches high school biology, and has always kept the most distance from the family drama. When I told her everything, the announcement, Dad's order, the welfare check, Mom's threats, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said something I'll never forget. They did the exact same thing to me 30 years ago when your parents had Lauren. I was 26, single, working nights as a nurse. They told me to move in and help. I did it. I gave up 3 years of my life. When I finally left, nobody thanked me. Nobody even noticed what I'd sacrificed. She paused, voice thick. I'll be there Sunday, Brooke. I should have spoken up a long time ago. While I was preparing, Mom and Lauren were busy too. Mom started calling every relative coming to Sunday dinner, laying groundwork. Brooke's been going through a rough patch. She's isolating. She walked out on Mother's Day. Just be gentle with her, she's fragile right now. Lauren took a different approach. She texted several family members directly, just a heads up, Brooke has been really weird about my pregnancy. I think she's jealous. Please don't bring up the baby stuff around her. I don't want any drama. My cousin Rachel, Aunt Patricia's daughter, screenshot Lauren's text and sent it to me with 3 words, thought you should know. Jealous. My own sister was telling the family I was jealous of her pregnancy. I wasn't jealous. I was being slowly erased, and now they were salting the earth before I could even speak. I folded the paper with my 3 facts, slipped it into my jacket pocket, and texted Rachel back, thank you. I'll handle it. Wednesday morning I had an important video meeting with my boss, Linda Marsh. She's 52, runs a tight 12-person auditing firm, and has 0 tolerance for excuses. She promoted me to senior associate 6 months earlier, the youngest person ever to hold that title at the company. I'm assigning you the full Hollowell manufacturing audit, she said, leaning into the camera. You'll manage the entire engagement from start to finish. Hollowell was our biggest client. Landing lead on that file was career-changing. It came with a strong recommendation letter that could open doors at much larger firms. I'm trusting you with this, Brooke. I went to bat for you. I won't let you down, I told her. I'll be completely locked in for the next 4 months. No distractions. 3 months earlier I couldn't have made that promise honestly. But I had learned my lesson the hard way, and I wasn't going to repeat it. Thursday evening Dad called again. Your mother and Lauren already set up the spare room at their house. Twin beds made. You can bring your things over Saturday and get settled before Sunday dinner. Dad, I already told Lauren I'm not moving in. I'm not asking. That's the problem. He let the silence stretch, the same old trick he'd used since I was a kid. I paid for part of your education. You helped with $12,000 8 years ago. I've thanked you every single time you've brought it up, which is a lot. Don't get smart with me. I'm being accurate. Sunday. Be there. He hung up. Saturday night my apartment was spotless. I sat at the kitchen table with my CPA binder open but unread, the folded paper in front of me, and my phone face down. Tomorrow I would stand in front of 15 relatives who had already been prepped to see me as fragile, jealous, or unstable. I was terrified I might fold when Mom cried or Dad gave me that heavy silent stare. But I kept reading the last line I had added to my paper, I am not the backup plan. Sunday arrived. At 12:45 p.m. I pulled into my parents' driveway behind Uncle Frank's silver pickup. The backyard was perfectly staged, 2 long folding tables pushed together, checkered tablecloth, potato salad, coleslaw, warm rolls, and the grill already smoking. About 15 people were there. Dad stood at the grill with tongs. Uncle Frank had a beer in hand. Aunt Beth arranged napkins. Lauren sat at the center of the table, one hand resting on her belly. Mike was beside her. Emma drew on a paper plate while Lucas ran circles around the bench. In the far corner, Aunt Patricia sat in a lawn chair with sunglasses on and a glass of iced tea, watching everything. Mom met me before I even reached the table. She pulled me into a tight, performative hug angled so everyone could see. There's my baby girl. I've been so worried about you. Her voice was loud and bright. Over her shoulder I saw several heads turn. I'm fine, Mom. Of course you are. She held my face a second too long, like she was presenting proof to the audience. I smiled politely and sat down. Everyone looked at me with soft, careful eyes, the kind reserved for someone they'd been told was struggling. The food came off the grill. Plates were passed. Small talk floated around, weather, sports, gardens. Then Mom stood up. Before we eat, I just want to say a few words. She smoothed her blouse and smiled at the group like a proud host. This family is growing. Lauren and Mike are expecting their third, and we couldn't be happier. Polite applause rippled. Then she turned the spotlight directly on me. And we're so blessed that Brooke has agreed to move in with Lauren and help with the kids once the baby arrives. She looked at me with a wide, camera-ready smile. Isn't that right, sweetheart? Every head at the table turned toward me. 15 pairs of eyes waited. I didn't speak right away. Mom's smile tightened. Lauren jumped in to fill the silence. She's just shy about it. We already set up the room. She laughed easily. Mike painted it last weekend. Dad, still by the grill, nodded. It's settled. A few people murmured, that's sweet of you, Brooke. Aunt Beth whispered to Uncle Frank, she's such a good sister. I looked across at Aunt Patricia. She gave me the smallest, steadiest nod from behind her sunglasses. I pressed my palms flat on the table and stood up. Can I say something? Mom smiled expectantly. Of course, honey. She thought I was about to confirm her version of events. I kept my voice calm and even. I need everyone here to hear this. Not because I want attention, but because some of you have been told things about me that aren't true. The smiles around the table started to fade at different speeds. Lauren straightened. Mom's hand moved to her collarbone. Dad lowered the tongs. I'm not going to yell or make a scene, but I need to say 3 things, and I need every person at this table to hear them clearly. I looked at Mom, then Lauren, then Dad, then back to the group. First, I never agreed to move in with Lauren. At Mother's Day dinner, Dad pointed at me and said, "You're moving in to help." Lauren said, "You have nothing going on anyway. We're fixing your life." Nobody asked me. Nobody checked if I had a job, a lease, or any plans of my own. I was simply assigned. I nodded that night, then stood up and walked out. Nodding and leaving is not agreement. It's restraint. The table had gone completely quiet. Uncle Frank raised his eyebrows at Dad. Aunt Beth stopped fussing with napkins. Second, the morning after Mother's Day, at 7:15 a.m., an officer from the Indianapolis Metro Police Department showed up at my apartment for a welfare check. Someone in this family called and told the police I was mentally unstable and might be a danger to myself. Gasps rippled around the table. Uncle Frank set his beer down hard. Aunt Beth turned to Mom. "Donna, Linda, is that true?" Mom's face went pale. I was worried. She walked out without saying anything. "I am not mentally unstable," I continued. "I am not in crisis. I left a dinner where my family decided my entire future without asking me." That is a reasonable reaction. The officer agreed. He also told me that filing repeated false welfare checks can lead to legal consequences in Indiana. Aunt Patricia spoke for the first time. I believe her. The energy in the yard had completely shifted. Third, I turned to Lauren. "You sent a text to several family members this week telling them not to mention your pregnancy around me because," and I'm quoting, "Brooke has been really weird about my pregnancy. I think she's jealous." Lauren's face went rigid. Her eyes flicked toward Rachel. "You weren't protecting me," I said. "You were trying to pre-frame me so that when I stood up and spoke the truth, no one would believe me. I am not jealous of your pregnancy. I am happy for you. But I am not your free nanny. I am not your backup plan. And I am not broken because I live alone and don't have children yet." My voice stayed steady the entire time. Aunt Patricia gave me another firm nod across the table. Aunt Beth whispered, "Jesus Christ." Then Aunt Patricia stood up slowly. She placed both hands on the table and spoke with a quiet power I had never heard from her before. "I need to say something, and I should have said it 30 years ago. When your parents had Lauren, this family did the exact same thing to me. I was 26, single, working night shifts as a nurse. They told me to move in and help, and I did. I gave up my apartment. I delayed my certification. I spent 3 years raising someone else's child while my own life stood still. When I finally left, nobody thanked me. Nobody even noticed what I had sacrificed. I was treated like furniture." She looked straight at me. "Don't make my mistake, Brooke. Say no while you still can." The math in the yard had changed. Not everyone was on my side yet, but the room no longer belonged to Mom and Dad. It belonged to the truth. Mom stood up, tears flowing. "I just wanted this family to stay together." "Is that so terrible?" "Worrying about someone means asking how they are," I said gently, "not calling the police when they don't answer your texts." Lauren finally cracked. She stood up, voice sharp. "Fine. You want the truth." Todd, Mike, got his hours cut. Daycare for 3 kids is almost $4,000 a month. We can't afford it. That's why we need you. The number hung heavy in the air. A few relatives shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sorry about your situation," I said. "I really am. But the answer to your financial problem is not to take away my career so you can save on childcare." I work 40 hours a week. I'm studying for a major professional exam. I manage important client accounts. I don't have free time. I have a life you've never bothered to understand. Mike, who had stayed silent the whole time, finally spoke. She's right. I told you from the beginning this should have been a conversation, not a plan. We made her feel like she had no choice. That wasn't okay. Lauren stared at her husband like he had betrayed her. I stayed standing. Here's what I am willing to do, I will babysit once a month if I'm asked ahead of time and it doesn't conflict with my work. That's the help I'm offering. I will not move in. I will not give up my apartment or my CPA studies. I will not sacrifice my job. And if anyone files another false police report on me, I will take formal action. Nobody argued. For the first time in my life, my family heard me and had nothing left to say. I walked over to where Emma and Lucas were sitting, still oblivious to the tension. I crouched down, kissed Emma on the forehead, and told her her butterfly drawing was beautiful. Lucas looked up with big eyes. Aunt Brooke, are you coming to live with us? I smoothed his hair gently. No, sweetie, but I'll come visit you. I promise. Kids accept boundaries so much easier than adults. I stood and looked at Lauren. I love your kids and I love you, but I can't be what you need me to be right now. I hope one day you understand that. I turned to my parents. I love you both, but love doesn't mean obedience. It never did. I picked up my purse, put on my jacket, and walked toward the gate. Aunt Patricia met me at my car and pulled me into a tight, steady hug. You did good, kid. I'm proud of you. I drove home with the windows down, warm Indiana air filling the car, radio off, hands steady on the wheel. I didn't cry. I just breathed. The first week after that Sunday was the quietest my phone had been in years. Mom didn't call. Dad didn't call. Lauren blocked me on every platform, Instagram, Facebook, even Venmo. Total digital silence meant to punish me. Instead, it felt like the first real breath I'd taken in a long time. Aunt Patricia called every evening for quick, warm check-ins. Rachel texted almost daily with memes, articles about boundaries, and simple, just checking in, messages. Uncle Frank called on Thursday. I didn't know about the police thing. That wasn't right. At work, I threw myself into the Hollowell audit. I submitted the preliminary engagement letter to Linda ahead of schedule. She was impressed. Best work I've seen from you yet, Brooke. Meanwhile, my family had to adjust. Mike picked up extra shifts. Lauren applied for state childcare assistance and qualified for a partial subsidy. Mom started watching the kids 2 afternoons a week herself. For the first time in years, she felt the weight she had tried to hand off to me. 3 weeks later Dad called. After a long silence he said, I know the police thing was wrong. I didn't know she did that until you said it on Sunday. And what I said about moving in. I've been thinking about it. I'm used to deciding things for the family. That wasn't right. It wasn't a full apology, but for a man like my dad it was huge. 1 month later Mom sent a short text, I shouldn't have called the police. I know that now. I replied, thank you for saying that. She followed up, would you want to come to dinner Saturday? Just me and your father. Nobody else. I thought about it for a long time, then typed back, okay, but I'm bringing dessert and I'm leaving by 9. She answered with a single word, okay. No argument. No guilt trip. Just acceptance of a boundary. It was small, but it was new. 3 months later I submitted my CPA exam application 2 weeks early. Linda reviewed my Hollowell work and called me from her car, this is outstanding, Brooke. I mean it. She wrote me a strong recommendation letter herself, professional, specific, the kind that opens real doors. I started babysitting Emma and Lucas once a month on scheduled Saturdays. I picked them up at 11 o'clock, took them to the park, bought ice cream, helped with letters and numbers, and had them home by 4 o'clock. It was enough for everyone. My relationship with my parents is different now, quieter, more respectful. Saturday dinners happen twice a month. Mom still slips into old habits sometimes, but when she does I say, "Mom, we talked about this," and she stops. Dad is quieter too, learning a new way to communicate after 61 years of giving orders. Lauren still hasn't apologized, but she stopped bad-mouthing me to relatives. Mike texted me once, "I'm sorry. I should have spoken up sooner. We're figuring it out." I appreciated the honesty. The system changed because I refused to lose myself in it. Here's what I've learned after everything: your family will always tell you they know what's best for you. Sometimes they're right. But sometimes, what's best just means what's most convenient for them. I don't hate my family. I still love them. I still hug my dad, call my mom, and adore my sister's kids. But I stopped letting love be a leash. For 30 years I believed being a good daughter meant saying yes to everything, yes to extra chores, yes to last-minute babysitting, yes to guilt, yes to the invisible $12,000 debt that bought my compliance. I thought if I kept giving, eventually they would see me as a real person with dreams and boundaries worth respecting. They didn't see me until I stood up and made them look. Setting boundaries didn't fix every relationship overnight. My mom still struggles with it. My sister still carries some resentment. My dad is trying in his slow, stubborn way. But boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. I decide when they open and when they stay closed. I decide who walks through and on what terms. It's fall now. October air feels crisp. The maple tree outside my kitchen window is turning gold at the edges. I sit at my table with my laptop open, CPA materials on one side, audit notes on the other, and a cup of coffee going cold because I always forget to drink it. My phone buzzes. "Aunt Patricia, proud of you, kid. Go crush that exam." I smile and send back a heart. She sends one right back. A minute later another buzz, Lauren's name. "Baby's due in 6 weeks. Would you want to come to the shower?" No pressure. No pressure. 2 words I'd never heard from her before. I don't know if it's a real olive branch or just logistics. I don't know if she's changed or if she's simply run out of other options. But I know I'm strong enough now to walk into any room on my own terms, able to say yes and mean it, or say no and mean that too. I type back, "Send me the date." Then I close the message, take a sip of my cold coffee, and open my prep book to the next chapter. Outside, the wind picks up and the maple leaves rattle. Down the street a kid rides a bike with training wheels clicking on the pavement. I pour a fresh cup of coffee, find my place in the book, and get back to building the life I choose. That's my story. If you're in the middle of your own version of this, trapped between keeping the peace and keeping yourself, I want you to know you're not selfish for saying no. You're not ungrateful for wanting your own life. You're not broken because the people who raised you can't see past their old blueprint. You're just awake. And that's enough. If you had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping yourself, which one would you pick? Drop your answer in the comments. If you chose yourself, I'm proud of you. If you haven't yet, I hope this gave you permission to start.